That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about the best and worst films at the 82nd Venice Film Festival.
2025.
The 2025 edition.
How many films did you see?
An incredibly low amount for me, which is about 45 in the program.
So how did you feel about the festival?
Overall, it felt like I was in the middle on a lot of the films. And I covered everything that was in the competition and then some. So I did do a lot of writing. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a bad year. It wasn't a particularly thrilling year, but it happened.
So if people want to read your reviews, they can go to Ion Cinema.
That's correct.
But we're going to start with your least favorite films of the festival.
Yes.
Okay, number 5.
Number 5, Elisa was in the competition, starring Barbara Ronchi and Roschdy Zem. It's directed by Lorenzo Di Costanzo, and the subject matter seems like it'd be thrilling because it's about this woman that burned her sister to death, and a decade later she's in this very kind of posh facility where she gets to serve croissants to people every day and go on nice long walks and have a little red outfit. And this professor that is interviewing volunteer inmates and doing a publication on women who kill, I don't remember exactly what his aim was, decides to speak to her. And initially in her, during her defense, she had amnesia. And that was backed up by experts. And now, a decade later, she's starting to remember. But the truth is, she always remembered. She was lying. But it's so boring. There's all just this like endless talking between Roschdy Zem and Barbara Ronchi, and both of them are fine. I don't think she smiles once in the film. There's a much more interesting film with Roschdy Zem and Léa Seydoux and Sarah Forestier called Oh Mercy by Arnaud Desplechin, which does something similar in a much more interesting way. It was so boring, but there is one fantastic flashback sequence where her harpy of a mother she strangles and also lights on fire. So that was an interesting scene. But yeah, I was completely bored by this. It seemed like a misfire. I've only seen one other film by this director, and I also thought was quite dull and a bit of a misfire as well.
Number 4.
Number 4, Mother, directed by Teona Strugar Mitevska, a Macedonian filmmaker. And this is a film about Mother Teresa, which is fitting because Mother Teresa was also born in the same place as the director in North Macedonia. This is, however, her English language debut, which means there's a lot of wonky accent work going on. Noomi Rapace is playing Mother Teresa, and it's set in the week where she's waiting for the Pope to allow her to leave her cloister and set up her own order and become the Mother Teresa that we all know. And meanwhile, there's some drama because the nun that she has picked to be her successor in the cloister has gotten pregnant and needs an abortion. But nothing about this feels
It sounds interesting.
It sounds interesting, but Noomi, I think she's a great actor, but I don't know what accent was going on there. And it seems like she's really kind of stumbling over trying to sound like she's from this certain area. But
Can you try to mimic it?
No, I don't even want to bother to try. It was, that was bad. And there's a lot of, I can see what Mitevska is trying to do because she's using like a punk sensibility with anachronistic music, which was giving me Bruno Dumont doing his Joan of Arc films. None of it worked.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Jay Kelly, the latest from Noah Baumbach, which was playing in competition, and it's about, I kept wanting to call it Jay Ellis, but Jay Kelly, George Clooney playing a version of himself as this actor that is kind of having a crisis about his career, and he decides to follow his youngest daughter across Europe who's backpacking with her friends, and he accepts this tribute award. And the whole machine behind an actor that has to accompany him doing something so foolhardy lends itself to some comedy. And Adam Sandler, who probably gives the best performance in the film, plays his agent that tries to make everything work. I was kind of shocked at how flat this was, and the comedy from there's several comedic moments that are just so poorly staged. I was also kind of shocked. There's especially one with Lars Eidinger as this German tourist on a train who forgets to take his medication and becomes a thief when he does so. I really didn't like this. That said, I did talk to a few people that felt the exact opposite of myself, but I did not care for it.
Number two. This
was the worst film in the competition, The Wizard of the Kremlin, directed by Olivier Assayas.
Wait, how's this the worst if it's number two?
It's the worst in the competition.
Oh.
Not in the whole program. Directed by Olivier Assayas. If you thought his 2019 film Wasp Network was also needing some retooling, this is suffering from the same scenario. Again, Paul Dano is playing the titular Wizard of the Kremlin, basically Putin's right-hand man that is pulling all the strings and making all these nefarious things happen. There is so much narration in strange accents, but with Paul Dano, who is also playing the same character as a 20-year-old in 1990s Moscow. Does not work. We're supposed to believe that Alicia Vikander has fallen head over heels for him, not once, but twice in their lifetime. And then Jude Law seems to be having a lot of fun playing Putin, but that's giving camp. And it's also 2.5 hours, constant narration, as I said. It's just terribly structured in every regard. It's almost unbelievable coming from this high profile of an auteur. Anyway.
And your least favorite film from the festival?
In the Hand of Dante, which is directed by Julian Schnabel and stars Oscar Isaac, Gal Gadot, who once again proves that she can't act her way out of a bag, John Malkovich, who seemed to be having some kind of impediment in speaking, and Gerard Butler as this extremely violent mafia thug. There are a couple of murder sequences in that are like shocking compared to, this is tonally off all the way, but it's based on a book by the author that Oscar Isaac is playing, who is given the opportunity because he's obsessed with Dante Alighieri, as the title would suggest, and he has the ability to go to Italy and transport the original manuscript of Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy, and then all the weird mayhem that ensues from this. This was also just shockingly bad. I just could not understand how this got made. I think this was also knocking around behind the scenes for maybe about a year between Cannes and Venice before it finally premiered out of competition, I guess just to get it out of the way, but everyone was extremely obnoxious in this film.
Thank you for that. So let's get to the positive. Your favorites from the festival.
Yes, at number 10, I have Below the Clouds by Gianfranco Rosi. Rosi, whose father was an incredibly famous filmmaker as well, he also won Venice previously in 2013, the Golden Lion for Sacra GRA. This is another, I guess you could call it a cycle of films picking a place in Italy and kind of focusing on it. And this is Naples. And he's kind of approaching it from every angle, but maybe from more obscure perspectives. But it's beautifully shot. He also serves as the cinematographer in black and white. It's a very tranquil film. And picking all kind of, again, like odd elements of Naples to focus on, like below the soil, going back to all the excavations because of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, which destroyed Pompeii, and all these other little villages that we're still kind of gleaning information from, to more modern elements such as the people because there are a lot of earthquakes there, and kind of the alarm that it causes in the city as these people that call into this fire department. It's very humane and very, just strangely compelling because on paper it seems like something that might be a snooze fest, but I quite enjoyed it.
Number 9.
Father, directed by Teresa Novtova, a Slovakian filmmaker. I haven't seen any of her previous films. This was in the Horizonte sidebar. Fascinating, I guess, character study about a man that suffers from forgotten baby syndrome. In other words...
What is that?
That's when you leave your kid in a car.
Oh, dang.
And so on a particularly stressful day, it's out of the ordinary. He's supposed to drive the kid to daycare. There's something very important happening at work. And that syndrome, one of the facets is that you go on autopilot when you're driving, so completely forget that the kid is in the back of the car, roasting day outside, and after 6 hours, this child dies, his young daughter, and he discovers it at the end of his work day, and kind of the unraveling that happens between this couple. He goes on trial. It's a very interesting, humane story, and the lead is quite compelling.
Number 8?
Number 8 was in the Giornata sidebar, Venice Days, La Gioia, which means joy, and it's also the name of the lead character, played by Valeria Golino, who plays this mousy school teacher, and it's directed by Michelangelo Gelomini. I've not seen any of this filmmaker's previous works, but Golino is in this situation, kind of like in The Piano Teacher, where she lives with her parents, even though she's a full-ass middle-aged adult or past middle-age, and has a kind of a dysfunctional, codependent relationship with them. But there's this young hustler at school who's been held back a grade, so he's a little older than his other students, and she falls head over heels for him and gives away all her parents' money to him.
What?
It's one of those. But beyond that, it has quite a shocking ending based on what happens to poor Gioia in that film. But it's dark and devious and kind of takes a hard left in a way that I wasn't really expecting.
That sounds interesting.
I quite enjoyed it.
Number 7.
The Stranger, directed by Francois Ozon. Mostly I'm surprised that this is the first time I've quite enjoyed an Ozon film in a long time, but it's an adaptation of the famous Camus novella about existential dread, if you will. It's about a Frenchman that murders an Algerian man, and then this subsequent trial puts him, the culture is more upset about how he treated his mother at her funeral. So it's absurdist, existential. Every detail, I mean, that's a classic text. Every detail in that matters. And I think that Ozon did a really fantastic job, actually, in incorporating all those details and also the tone. Because there's an earlier 1967 version directed by Luchino Visconti starring Marcello Mastroianni, who's a bit too old to play that role. And that's played more as a broad, surreal comedy. Kind of leans into the Kafkaesque elements of the trial, and Anna Karina is the female lead. This, Benjamin Voisin plays the lead character, the empty young man, because that's what it's about. It's about isolation as well, kind of taking away from our humanity. I loved the score by a Kuwaiti composer, Fatima.
Wait a minute.
Fatima El-Qadri. Her score mixed with one of my favorite modern cinematographers is Manu Dacos. It's beautiful. It's shot in black and white. It has this timeless feel. And again, I think it really captures the spirit of the text.
Number 6.
Father, Mother, Sister, Brother.
Okay.
Directed by Jim Jarmusch.
Oh, is he the person you interviewed?
I did interview him for an album in 2023.
For Spin Magazine.
But I mean, he's a legendary filmmaker. I was quite pleasantly surprised. It's a triptych of thematically related things, basically about estranged families. The first segment's called Father, the second Mother, the third Sister, Brother. The first two focus on white families and kind of this adherence to traditions despite an obvious, like, they're strangers and have to get together with their elderly parents ever so often, and these people clearly know nothing about one another. The middle segment's probably my favorite because we have a withering Charlotte Rampling living in Dublin, and her two daughters played by Vicky Krieps and Kate Blanchett. And to me, Vicky Krieps kind of trumps Kate Blanchett, her adult daughters who moved to Dublin but still only managed to get over there once a year to have tea.
Dang.
The first segment is also quite entertaining with Tom Waits as a man that is fleecing his children by lying and saying he needs money all the time, but using it to buy luxury items for himself. And then
Good for him.
The last segment is mixed race family. It's about these two twins. The daughter played by India Moore from Pose.
Oh.
And their parents died in a freak plane accident. and they're going to take one last look at the apartment. And I think we're supposed to get... I think the subtext of the film are quite compelling because this third family, albeit they're dealing with mourning and death and loss for parents that they can't ever contact again, but we're a family that were able to invent themselves because they didn't have to adhere to the same entrenched expectations. So I think it's a very wise film. It's a very droll film. Quite enjoyable.
Number 5.
Bravo Bene. I was not looking forward to watching this in the competition. It was the last day. It's directed by Franco Moresco, who's an Italian filmmaker I'm not that familiar with. I've only seen his one previous feature, The Mafia is No Longer What It Used to Be, which also won an award at Venice in 2019. So I'm unfamiliar with him as a person, and this is a documentary that is about a failed film project that he'd been making about Carmelo Bene, a notable stage and screen star that died, 20 years ago. And this was kind of geared up to further his international acclaim, because a lot of his stuff has not traveled as far outside of Italy, but was known for some very controversial films in the 90s, including Toto, Who Has Lived Twice. I found him a fascinating subject who really doesn't appear at all. It's mostly other people talking shit about him, but he seems like a difficult contrarian who also has some significant mental health and depression issues that kind of, he self-sabotaged this film project. But we do also see snippets of the film that were completed, and it looked like it was going to be a beautiful film. It looked like if Pasolini had directed The Flowers of St. Francis. I found everything about it fascinating, and especially what he does in the third act with this pompous film critic. I don't know. I found it a very enlightening, very entertaining film. I was happy to experience and look forward to watching more of Franco Moresco's previous filmography.
Number 4.
Bugonia.
Oh.
The latest film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Strangely, this kind of broke his winning streak because it didn't pick up anything from the jury, even though I think it was one of the best films that was in the competition. It's a remake of a 2003 Korean film called Save the Green Planet, although this is much darker, it's pared down, has less characters, but it's about these conspiracy theorists, Jesse Plemons, who is drastically altered physically. Like in Think Christian Bale Machinist. It's shocking, actually, when he first comes on screen. And he has a neurodivergent cousin that he's convinced that this woman that they need to abduct is an alien, and it's Emma Stone, who is this high-profile CEO, and they proceed to torture her.
Wow.
But it's Lanthimos, so it's a dark comedy, essentially, but Emma Stone is quite fabulous in this as well.
Number 3.
Number 3, On the Road, directed by David Pablos, which I believe won the Queer Lion and also won the top prize in the Orizzonti section. I'm not familiar with this director previous to this film, but it is troubling and vibrant and intimate, and it's about this young hustler who has stolen this bag of drugs from this... It's like he was sold into sex slavery by this ogre-like man, and he escapes, and this man comes after him, but he picks up with his trucker who has a significant drug problem, and his family has abandoned him because of it, and these two men kind of develop this romantic fixation and become, in a weird way, a salvation for one another, even though it does not end happily at all.
Interesting. Number 2.
No Other Choice, the latest film directed by Park Chan-wook, also went home without any awards, which seems crazy to me because this is masterpiece level from Park Chan-wook. It's based on a Donald E. Westlake novel from 1997, which I also read in anticipation and I quite liked. And Kostas Gavras made an adaptation of that called The Axe in 2005. This film is dedicated to Kostas Gavras. And Park Chan-wook's been trying to make this forever. It's also a dark comedy about murder and economics and capitalism, and it's fascinating and a lot of fun. And I think if you're a fan of Parasite, then you also, which is Bong Joon-ho, not Park Chan-Wook. But if you're a fan of that, I think this has a lot of similarities and sentiments, but mostly shocked it didn't get one goddamn thing.
And your favorite film from the festival this year?
Silent Friend, directed by Ildiko and Yeti, and it's all about a tree.
Oh, well, that'll be silent for sure.
But it's about so much more than that. It's a very elegant film, starring Tony Leung and Lea Seydoux, and it's set across three different, and this picked up an award as well, but it's set across three distinct time periods, 1908, 1972, and 2020, during the pandemic. And there's this tree that's interconnecting these people, but it's also about scientific progress and all of the kind of things that have prohibited it, including gender roles and what we expect of women and how we communicate. There's like a courtship going on between central characters in each segment that are kind of cute. I think it's extremely well edited because it's also 2.5 hours, but we're flitting in between all of these time periods in ways that seem so cohesive and never gets dull. It's also a very calming film. The sound design, the cinematography, I don't know, it's quite excellent. But really it's all about how everything around us is part of our environment and part of a relationship that we have with it. And it's these people that are determining if we can communicate with this tree, does plant life communicate with each other, and what does that mean? And I think that it plays like the hopeful version of something like Bertrand Bonello's La Bête, The Beast, which is also set across three distinct time periods, and how humans' relationships to technology has also become kind of our undoing. But in Yeti posits, I think that we're just merely getting better, and we will be able to harness our powers. And I think Yeti is suggesting that technology might be more hopeful in the end by allowing us to better communicate with the environment, and only then can we experience self-actualization, and maybe only then in certain stops and starts. But I was quite impressed by this, especially considering I strongly disliked her adaptation of The Story of My Wife from 2021, also starring Lea Seydoux, because that's an excellent novel, and that film was kind of a snooze fest. But I just incredibly impressed by it.
That's nice. All right, I'm going to go over the main competition awards. Mm-hmm. So Best Screenplay went to Valerie Donzelli and Gilles Marchand for At Work.
Gilles Marchand.
Did you see that movie?
I did. I reviewed everything that was in the competition. I did not like this. It's based on a book, so it's technically a documentary, a hybrid documentary. I called it poverty tourism because it's about this photographer that is incredibly successful. His wife has left him, played by Donzelli, moves to Montreal with the kids, and he decides he wants to be a writer. And so he gives up everything, and he's just published his third book. His publisher, played by Virginie Ledoyen, has nothing to do, tells him that, your next book, it's got to be a hit or we're not going to publish it. So he decides to take all these kind of back-breaking, menial handyman jobs that he's not really qualified to do, even at the cheapest rates possible on this app called Jalbert. And I just don't really quite understand why he's struggling so. I just take less photography jobs where you can make money. He's like barely scraping by. But at the same time, his father's telling him, stop being a loser, I'll give you the money. It just seems like I'm not led to understand why this person couldn't work smarter and not harder. Because there's a lot of people that are writers and do other things that supplement their income. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It felt very pretentious.
Okay, Volpe Cup for Best Actor went to Tony Servillo for La Grazia.
La Grazia was the opening film from Paolo Sorrentino. I think it was an improvement based on the past couple of... I haven't liked a Sorrentino film in a while either. It's basically a continuation of Tony Servillo's role in The Great Beauty. I thought that was fine. I kind of was expecting Dwayne Johnson to get that for The Smashing Machine, but I guess it's... The other thing is, I don't believe Tony Servillo, considering his vast filmography, has ever won Best Actor at any of the major film festivals. So it's a nice homage to him.
Volpe Cup for Best Actress went to Jean Gillet for The Sun Rises on Us All.
Yes, which is kind of a slice of poetic miserableism. She does give a fantastic performance in that. I kind of wanted Valeria Bruni-Tedeschi to take that award for Douce. I also thought Amanda Seyfried for The Testament of Anne Lee, which the Italian critics hated, but I thought she was quite good in that as well. Yeah, I think that she gives a fantastic performance. It is one of those films where everything that could possibly go wrong does go wrong. It's about this woman who works, she has a clothing apparel store, and she also sells her wares online on social media. And she's just discovered she's pregnant. She's seeing a married man who previously made her get an abortion. And her ex-lover shows up. And it's this man that she royally screwed over. She killed somebody in a hit and run, and she drove away, and her man took the fall, and then while he was serving his 5-year prison sentence, she left him, and now he's out of prison and he has stage 4 stomach cancer.
Dang.
And it's not funny, but it's just kind of like, oh my god, the things that happen in this movie. But yeah, her performance is I think that was a nice selection for that award.
Good. Silver Lion went to Benny Safdie for The Smashing Machine.
For Best Director. That kind of perplexed me a little bit, but okay.
Okay. Special Jury Prize went to Below the Clouds by Gianfranco Rossi.
Yes, which I quite like. Special Jury Prize is usually reserved. It's kind of like almost like a third place prize.
Grand Jury Prize went to The Voice of Hind Rajab by Kauthar
Benhania. Yes, so that was kind of the major drama at the festival this year. A Palestinian film from a Tunisian filmmaker, and it's about this. It's set in 2024, and Hind Rajab is this 6-year-old girl, and it's actual voice footage of this girl being shot at in this car for 8 hours, and the emergency responders that are 50 miles away that are trying to, work through the bureaucratic red tape to get the Red Cross to work with the Israeli military to allow the ambulance drivers transport to get this girl. But, it's a genocide that's happening, so that's not what's happening. I think it's very rare in cinema that we get something that was made that is speaking to something that is actually happening right now. So there's an immediacy to it. It's very upsetting to watch and listen to. I think it's also a very crudely made film. I think it was made, without much of a budget. I think the actors playing the emergency responders, so they workshopped the roles with the actual people that, lived through this incident. But they hadn't listened to the voice of the young girl until actual filming. And I find their performances very performative. Like they are acting out like what any other untrained person would do. There were a lot of films this year where I'm seeing depictions of people that are supposed to be trained that are not acting that way. I had the big problem with the Catherine Bigelow film in competition as well. Anyway, I think it's an important film. I think it needed to be honored in some way. I think everybody was very divided on whether it should win the Golden Lion or not, and it seems the jury was too. But well worth seeing. It's a conversation that's, I think that if you are so desensitized by news stories about what's happening in Palestine, then this is an alternative avenue to maybe generate some empathy, but by people that are completely sticking their head in the sand about what's going on.
And Golden Lion went to Father, Mother, Sister, Brother by Jim Jarmusch.
I was shocked. I thought this seemed like a film that the jury, led by Alexander Payne, would overlook as something that's too slight. And Jarmusch is certainly an auteur that I can't believe he hasn't won, like Cannes, for instance. So I think this was a very nice homage to him. And I think this is also a film that's very elegant and, as I said before, wise and cathartic and something we can all relate to no matter what kind of a relationship we have with our parents.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about the 2025 Venice Film Festival?
No.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.